See, I'm already
We
launched.
should acknowledge that we're live on the internet right now having a conversation with people.
What's up, everybody? I got, hope I'm saying this right, Mike Nellis. Is that it?
Nellis. Hard
Mike
S.
Nellis. Mike Nellis is a Democratic strategist, a digital strategist. He's won a Webby Award. He's AAPC 40 under 40. I mean, this guy is the freaking man. And more impressively, has raised over, is that $1 billion with a B?
Yes. I've raised over $1 billion
with a B.
Yeah. It's crazy when you add it all up over a career, but yeah, I've raised $1 billion. But what I tell people is, if you've gotten a fundraising email and you liked it, I wrote it. If you got a fundraising email and you didn't like it, I had nothing to do with that shit.
Right? That's not no.
Yeah. But no, my firm specifically though is like well known to be one of the like 2 or 3 firms that writes like good content. So like if you're on Adam Schiff's email list and like Adam takes very careful eye on his voice and message, like that's because we've been with him for 10 years, making sure that like people know who he is and he's got a voice. We treat him with respect.
You mean you don't do like the Trump emails where it's like, you know, like we could be in some contest to go sit with them, you know, if we just
donate. That he doesn't deliver on those contests.
Of course he does.
That's like a big thing. Like at least when Democrats do them, you get to have lunch with Barack Obama.
Right. Yeah. Which I mean, that would be amazing if, you know, I would still donate for that shot now to have lunch with Barack Obama.
I would.
You know, he'd probably
get a chance in the next couple of years. I guess it'll just happen.
I would be all about it, man. I'd be like, here's my money. You know,
when Obama runs for his 3rd term versus Trump, you'll be able to get, you know, coffee with Michelle Obama and I don't know.
I know that's unconstitutional, Mike, but don't tease me with a good time. Like, don't.
So I have a part, I call this my chaos brain, where like I deeply just don't want that to happen, but I am kind of interested in what would happen. And so I'm just sort of like, can I get like a quick glimpse into what would happen and then not have to live through that experience again? I would love that.
I mean, all I'm saying is, I mean, if he just goes to what FDR did for 4 terms, can we just have 4? Like just 2 more. That's all I want. Just 2 more. But
this conversation is basically the equivalent of the meme where Bradley Whitford is like, I would have voted for Obama a 3rd term if I could. Be like, I didn't realize that was a prophecy. I thought it was a bit. But just 2 white guys with beards being like, I'd vote for Obama again.
Okay, of course. I mean, are you really a good Democrat if you only vote for a candidate twice when they run twice?
I live in Chicago.
No. I'm like, it's like I've only voted once per election. I'm a very poor Democrat.
Rodney, good to meet you too. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for getting my emails. I like how you said you get my emails, not that you've read my emails. That's my favorite comment so far.
It's like, well, hey, you know, we don't really need to get the open rate up. As long as you get them, as long as you see them, as long as we show up.
As long as the little thing in my back end says that my average open rate is higher than average, I'm good. Like I don't.
Yeah, that's it.
What good and bad is, but.
We want to see it trending upwards, not downwards. It's funny because I got into organizing in East Tennessee, the Tennessee First Ruby Red District. I was in a class. I'd never been involved in politics, and my graduate advisor was telling us, he's like, well, you know, he gave you the coach speech where he says, if you see something wrong, you go ahead and fix it. And I said, okay. So we didn't have college Democrats on campus, right? Period. Right there, it didn't exist. And I worked in the Student Union Center. And so I worked with student activities, and I went down to them and I said, hey, I want to start College Democrats. And they're like, okay, well, you got to do a charter. You got to get 50 members. You got to do this. You got to do this. You got to do this. I was like, damn. They said, or actually, it's only been defunct for 4 years. Why don't you just get some officers and we'll just reactivate it for you? I was like, sweet. So I put out a flyer and like 4 people joined up. And I said, okay, we got to decide on officers. And someone said, well, you set the meeting, so you should be the president. I said, so I got to be the best. I got to be president in the best way possible. I was just appointed president. I didn't run for it, which is the best way to do it, right?
Yeah.
And then after that,
I never have to face the voters of a college Democrat group. I mean, I was the vice president of my college Democrats. Although not that I ever saw the class. So. I graduated right past that. I think I was like vice president, and then I just was like, hey guys, I got a gig at the Obama campaign, so like you got on your own.
Yeah, I gotta go. Peace.
You guys organize this college campus in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm gonna go over here and help Obama win that. I guess. So like I meet people and they'll go, my time as a college Democrat is some of the most important to me. Like, Mike, you get that right. And I'm like, no, Like I stopped going. I didn't get my college degrees until I was like 30. Like I only graduated like 8 years ago with my my bachelor's degree.
Oh, dude, we're like brothers from another mother because like it took me off and on 16 years to get my bachelor's, and because I worked in between, like I'd go for a semester, and then I'd go, this is dumb. I'm gonna go work, and then I'd work, and then I'd take a couple classes, and I go, I want to go back to school, and then I'd go for a semester, and I'd say, this is dumb, and then I just go work, and and finally someone's like, I think one day I was working security at a community college for the police. They had a police department, and the chief. I was saying something, and the chief was like, well, I'm not going to take any advice from someone who doesn't have a college degree. And I was like, oh, well then. So, like a lot of things in my life,
giving me a proper reason to do it, which is hate and spite. Like, fuck you.
That's pretty much how my life is going, is like hate and spite. It's like, oh, okay. I identified so much with Michael Jordan in the Last Dance when he took everything personally, because that's pretty much that's how I live my life. Is like, it's like, oh, okay, yeah.
That's the type of petty I am. Like when people are mad about like the 2016 presidential primary between Bernie and Hillary, and I was on Bernie, I'm not even mad about that because I'm still mad about like 2004 and Howard Dean, and like I'm just holding on, and like I got like a long knife out to like get my revenge for Dean, and I'm just mad about
yes. Well, and this is I've discussed this on so many other lives. It blows my mind that just cut it.
I was in the room when that happened. I didn't think anything of it at the time.
Oh my God. No. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nothing. And it killed his entire campaign, that. And now we're here with, POS POTUS, punk ass POTUS, Donald J. Trump.
Which that's nicer than it should be.
I love the fact now that it seems that Gavin Newsom has finally gone on offense. I've been waiting for this, like this fight fire with fire strategy for so long. Because I kind of, when I got into politics, I was raised Republican, right? I kind of went independent. If you remember during the 2000 campaign, when Bush and George W. Bush in South Carolina accused.
I mean, I was 12, but unfortunately, I do remember.
I was doing
the math. More about me than it does about you, Frederick.
No, I was doing the math real quick, and I went, you know what? He was probably like a kid, but knowing this guy, he probably knows.
I'm not even 40. Like, the thing is, like, I have 20 years of experience in Democratic politics. I'm not even 40 yet. So it's like, it's kind of fucked up. Like, everybody that I work with thinks I'm like approaching 50. And I'm like, then I just like look like a baby face. Like, no, I look like a normal 37-year-old. I'm just actually 37.
Part of me wants to say, that's amazing. And also, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
Well, because it's like, I've been pretty much politically active since 2003, really. And
what's up, Arlene? Just saying hi. Arlene's one of my like go-to hardcore followers. I love you.
That's awesome. I got a few of those too, and I'm hoping they're in here. Morgan X might be in here.
Morgan X is in here. Morgan X is in here. I think.
Yeah, Morgan X is.
Morgan was like, I've never heard of you before. Like, that was great.
I've heard of Mike, and I've invited him on, and I'm happy he's here. So, but no, I left the Republican Party because so McCain in the South Carolina primary, the Bush campaign sort of put out on the slide that he had a illegitimate black child, and that kind of sort of killed the Straight Talk Express, right?
Yep.
And so, but
super fucked up,
right? And then
and super racist, like just super racist.
And that stuff went on all the time. I mean, and I've got stories.
That's why when people are like, this is terrible now. And I mean, it's always been this bad. The difference is that Trump is like a bigger jackass. And so the veil is like completely removed. Like George W. Bush would keep the shit that he would do several leagues away from him. Right. And then he would have a middleman for it. But like now it's like, nope. It'd be like not him to Karl Rove. Like Trump is Karl Rove.
Yes. Like, yeah, he's just going to come out and say it.
And his Karl Rove is like even eviler, which is Stephen Miller, because Miller's fucking cool.
Oh God. Stephen Miller is like, he's like the cut Indiana Jones villain, It's like they cut him because he's so boring. Plus, it's like, this is way too evil. Like, we need cartoonish evil, but not like real banal evil. That's just
No,
too.
I feel like though we're getting like Hollywood slowly figuring out like how to do this type of villain because like so Batman v Superman, they had their Lex Luthor who was like supposed to be like an Elon Musk type and Mark Zuckerberg type, and they kind of fucked that up. But in this latest Superman movie, I think they got it right, where it was like tech billionaires, lost his mind, super insecure about everything, hates somebody else because he doesn't have what he can't get. And like we're getting there to these like kind of like weird, goofy alt-right assholes. The Hollywood's figuring it out.
We are inundated with those people. Like we are, and it's insane, you know. And one of the things that I understood the whole they go low, we go high. I kind of understood that in sort of the abstract, but I was always the lone voice in the room that was just like, no, screw that. Let's go hit him in the mouth. Because I was kind of from that conservative style of politics where it's just like, you know, it's like, go out there and everybody's together. We message together and boom, hit them. Yeah. And that to me is one of the things I've always been frustrated with the Democrats about is they don't do that. But we're seeing it with Gavin Newsom. I don't know if we have enough sort of time to see how this strategy is working, but I do know with the base, from what I'm seeing anecdotally, people are loving it. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Like, and I know her name's Camila Zapata, I think her name is. Yeah, the social media. Yeah, she's, and so what do you think of that strategy? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I like it. But I'll also say like, I like it because it's for me. Like that's the reason I like it. It's the same reason I like the Super Bowl halftime show where Eminem and a bunch of other Snoop Dogg and a bunch of other like, you know, guys of my time coming up in music. Like I like that because it was for me in the same way that when I was a kid and like, you know, Bruce Springsteen would play, I wouldn't be as excited, but it wasn't for me. It was for baby boomers, right? Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So yeah. I think that what I like about it is it's aggressive, it's funny, they're taking risks, they're throwing shit back at him. Like there's a lot of value to that. And it is firing up the base. It's creating a lot of engagement. Newsom, I think, has been very smart, but Newsom's not the one doing this, right? Like this is like him letting his digital team off the leash. And as somebody who the DNC's done this too, if you looked at the DNC's Twitter account over the last couple of months, they've been on fire. Like they're doing unbelievably hilarious shit, like posting photos of like Pete Hegseth's phone looking all blurry and shit like that. And then they did like a porn tweet with Ted Cruz. It's one of my favorite things that has ever been tweeted. And shout out to Shelby Cole and Paulina Mengubat, who I used to work with and love both of them. But here's the drawbacks of it. Here's what I don't like about it. I don't like that it's now creating this like ecosystem of people that are like, this is the path to win 2026 and this is the path for 2028 and Newsom should be the nominee and every Democrat should be running this exact same strategy. And I'm like, no, they should not. No, they should not.
No.
Because what works for Gavin Newsom is the governor of California and desperately wanted to be president since the minute he came out of his mother's womb. Like that's going to work for him. Because he has the constituency and he has the shame to be able to do it. And again, nothing wrong with it. I'm not knocking Gavin Newsom's strategy. No. I don't think that's a strategy that works in a general election when you have to win over a median voter. And the way I describe it to my clients all the time is the median voter in a battleground state like Wisconsin is a single parent with a couple of kids working a few jobs. They're lucky if they can drink a beer and watch Monday Night Football, let alone see any of the shit that's happening on Twitter. And so we need to be really mindful of that. And then at the same vein, you know, like Sherrod Brown just jumped into the Ohio Senate race today, which is really exciting news because it gives us a fighting chance at winning that and giving us a potential seat back in this environment. If Sherrod Brown started posting like that, it would be inauthentic to Sherrod Brown and it would cost him votes in Ohio. So what I actually want is I want the number one thing that Democratic candidates should do is loosen the chain quite a bit for every single one of their digital people all across the space here. Give them more opportunity to take risks, but it doesn't mean that they're the same risks that Gavin Newsom is taking because this doesn't work for Sherrod Brown. I would argue it doesn't work for AOC either. No. AOC is a very different brand. Gavin Newsom's brand is, and I'm not, for those who know me, I'm not a huge fan of Gavin. I worked on his first campaign to get him to the governor's race. I don't think he should be our nominee in 28. I think he's built in a lab to piss off Republican and independent voters. His numbers, he is about as disliked by the broader electorate as Joe Biden was in the last election, and Biden is very unpopular. And Newsom is not a national candidate yet, so I don't think that he should be the nominee. But this is a very good strategy for what he's trying to do, which is build a big audience. He's gotten 1 billion views in the last week. He's gained millions of followers, but I think it would be toxic in a general election. So I wouldn't do it that way, but it is breathing some life into the Democratic Party, which is pretty damn good. But all the talk that he should be the nominee because of it, or that every Democrat should be doing it? No, it's not. There's just different strategies for people. And it's not going to be as appealing, but it is useful to have like a pit bull out there rallying the troops. And in the middle of a gerrymandering fight, it's valuable to have, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like that's the one thing that has always frustrated me is with the Democratic Party is we didn't have any pit bulls. There was no attack dogs, right?
Yeah. Well, we have them. They're on a leash. So like they're told what they can or cannot do, what they can or cannot say, and then we don't send them onto platforms where they can go make the most difference. So like we're so poll tested and careful, we're afraid about ever having to answer a question because something goes off the rails, which isn't going to work.
No. And it makes you look weak, right? It makes you, and that's the hard thing is like, there was a book that I reference all the time that like, What's the Matter with Kansas? And one of the central thesis in that book was the thing that people are attracted to with Republicans is they sound sure. They sound very strong. They're wrong on a lot of things, but they're very sure in what they're saying. Now that's kind of gone off the rails with MAGA and Trump, but with Democrats, they always try to do this nuance thing where, to your point, they don't try to offend anyone. They try to appeal to this or that, and it sounds like it's means tested and it's a bunch of gobbledygook and it's weak sauce and nobody wants to buy that, right? It just sounds, even if it's true or it's an attempt to get as close to truth as possible, it sounds disingenuous. And so what I kind of like from Gavin, and while I agree to your point, this is not party-wide. It is showing people like, hey, we have attack dogs that we're going to stand up for you, that we're going to hit back. He may not be the guy to lead the party. I don't really have any thoughts right now. I'm like, I'll see when we get to a primary, because as you and I know from like supporting Obama, he was like, there was no way he was going to be when it started, he wasn't supposed to be the nominee in 2008.
Yep.
Like Hillary Clinton was the anointed one. It was her race to get. And then he just, I think it was like the third debate they had with John Edwards and Hillary. It just kind of came out where he's just like, I think he said like, yeah, Martin Luther King wouldn't support anybody up here. Yeah. And he just went off and then just started.
I forgot about that, but I remember that.
Yeah, he was like, no, he wouldn't support any of us.
My favorite Barack Obama moment from that primary, and there's so many that are seared into my memory, is just, and it was mean. It was really fucking mean. But there was some question, I think, right around the New Hampshire primary, at a debate between the two of them. And somebody was like, Hillary, a lot of people say that they don't like you. What do you say to people that you're not very liked? And Obama just couldn't shut the fuck up and went, Hillary, I think you're likable enough. Which was fucking mean. It was so mean. I remember gasping at like how mean it was. I laughed because it was also funny. But like, you could say that to your friend, but you can't say that to Hillary Clinton when you're running against her for president. So like it was, and then it created like a shitstorm for him like a week after he won Iowa. It was hilarious. In retrospect, it was funny. Had it like turned the race, I would have been pissed about it forever. But it's tough. So here's the thing about Newsom, and I'll walk this back to the WWE-ification of politics, which is those who watch my show, I talk about pro wrestling quite a bit because I'm a white man who never grew up, and but there's heels and there's faces. So the heels are the bad guys, the faces are the good guys. Donald Trump understands intrinsically, which is you can switch sides at any time in pro wrestling, right? A good guy can become a bad guy in a flash, flip right back. Everybody just kind of buys into it. That's exactly what's happening with Gavin Newsom, because the same Gavin Newsom who's trolling the shit out of Trump and everybody's talking about how great his social content copy is the same guy that got his ass handed to him on a podcast by Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk, is the same guy who was like, I've never used the phrase Latinx before, and then CNN released like a series of clips reminding people he had used Latinx for years. So to me, it's like some of the value of Newsom and some of Newsom's value proposition, and I'm a Newsom critic for those who are mad, I'm sorry, I do like the social strategy, is Newsom is essentially evil. It doesn't believe in anything, so he becomes a blank slate to whatever the base wants, which is also the same value proposition as Donald Trump. So you take the bad and you go with the good because you think at the end of the day, he'll be beholden to me and my base party's interests, and I'll be able to get a lot done because he's shameless. So you can make a case for Newsom that he's very similar to that, because with Newsom, I'm not entirely sure what he believes in. I'm not entirely sure what his vision for America is. I'm not entirely sure what policy positions he would get done outside of things that are in the best interest of Gavin Newsom, which in the state that the party is in, I think the party is very hijackable for someone like that to take it over because the more established candidates are not providing enough of a vision to move beyond that. I think somebody else will be able to do that, whether or not that's like AOC with a more left version of it, if that's like a Pete Buttigieg, a more moderate, pragmatic version of it, or somebody else in that ecosystem, if it's like, Governor Beshear. And like, I like Andy Beshear, but I also think that when people talk about Andy Beshear, they're trying to recreate Bill Clinton in the aggregate, like it's Moneyball. And I feel like that doesn't work either. So it's to your point about like, you're not getting behind a candidate right now. I'm not really behind a candidate now either. I work for some of them. I love all of them. And I look forward to the giant messy fight that we're going to have in 2027, which will feel messy and shitty at the time, but will make the party stronger.
Yep.
And then we don't know. And somebody said Beto. I like Beto. I've always liked Beto. I think Beto gets a bad rap. Beto's like willing to take risks and run and just keep pushing forward, and that will eventually pay off for him because he's talented enough. But somebody's going to break through here, and really it'll be like 2 or 3 people will break through, and it'll be because they resonate with the electorate. But we don't know what people want right now. We don't know what's going to work because at this time in 2005, very few people would have said that Barack Obama is going to be the nominee that's going to lead the Democratic Party to its biggest electoral victory in the last 40 years. In my lifetime, Barack Obama led us to the biggest victory we've ever had. So I don't know who that's going to be. What I know we shouldn't be doing is like shoehorning people in. And like Newsom's going to rise. And my guess is if you check the primary polls today, Newsom probably be like upper teens because it's been such a like big wave for him. And then in a month from now, he'll fall back down. Like that happened to Cory Booker. Cory Booker was up and then he kind of came back down to earth. And, AOC, when she was leading the rally, she came up high and she fell back down. And like, that just tells you about how fluid the race is and how desperate people are for anybody who will throw a punch right now. And it'll also tell you that you shouldn't be writing anybody off. Because in February of this year, most people would have told you there's no fucking way I'm voting for Gavin Newsom. And a lot of the influencers who are hawking Newsom's content right now were shitting on him for the podcast. And now they've done a flip 180. So I use that as an example, and I hand it back to you, Frederick. I feel like I'm talking too much, so I'm sorry.
No, you're great. This is awesome.
Okay, just tell me when I need to shut up. It's your show. This is your show.
No. This is, hey, I'm letting you go for it, man.
Okay, I basically have 2 speeds like go or no go. But like, how many people have written off Gretchen Whitmer because she was willing to work with Donald Trump on behalf of her constituents, right? Like she's gotten a lot done for her people, and what she has said is, my commitment is to the people of Michigan. I'm going to get shit done, even if that means working with a guy I don't particularly like. And that's fine. I get that, but a lot of people were like, her presidential campaign is over. This is the kiss of death because she met with Trump in the White House. I'm like, I'm not so sure about that. Like, Whitmer is doing her job right now, and what Newsom is proving is that, like, you can step into that lane at any moment, and with the right messaging and the right social at the right time, you can catch that wave. So it may be that the person who wins this primary in the end is the person who catches the last wave, or the wave just at the right moment that gets them over the hump. So I don't think we should be writing anybody off, and I'm not entirely convinced that the candidate in 2028 is somebody we're not talking about right now, because that's how fluid I think it is. The rest of it is just name recognition.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think Tim Walz still has a shot. I think Tim Walz is.
I'm not throwing anybody overboard. My gut is to get as far away from the Biden.
No, I get it. Yeah. No, and again, it's
I love Tim Walz. To be clear, I would take a bullet for Tim Walz. I have my hat over here, so
he like, I think if he does it for him, I think first of all, I just want to back up and say, I think we became best friends because you mentioned wrestling and Moneyball and the same thing, and I'm just like, I think we're best friends.
Peak white guy culture at that point.
Yeah, I was just like, I think I was like, did we just become best friends?
Are you a current pro wrestling fan or like an ex pro wrestling fan?
So I'm like the I still follow pro wrestling. I was absolutely the 80s, because I grew up then, and the other one was the what was it? The Raw era, the D-Generation X, all that stuff.
Yeah, the Attitude Era. Yeah.
The Attitude Era. Yeah, I was all about like the Attitude Era, So and I kind of dropped off, like, like I like John Cena, but I was just like, I kind of dropped out of there.
So I think the product right now is as good as it's been since the Attitude Era.
That's what everybody's saying.
I stopped watching it for a decade, and then when Vince McMahon resigned, and then we can move on. Linda's husband is deeply into WWE. Let's go. I think it's not as good as the Attitude Era, but it's as good as it's been since then. And so like I've been enjoying the hell out of it. And my favorite wrestler is like this goth woman. Her name's Rhea Ripley. Like she's awesome.
I love Rhea Ripley. Oh my God. The women, I've gone.
The women wrestlers are amazing. They're far better than most of the male wrestlers, in my opinion. They're just way more interesting characters, better performances. It's awesome.
That's
Judith. Wait, I see this. Hold on. So Judith, yes. Triple H is for sure a Trumper. I don't actually think Roman Reigns is a Trumper. I think he just said something that was like vaguely supportive of like America, period, and then it got kind of like milled out there. Triple H, for sure. I mean, he was at the White House like 2 weeks ago for the presidential fitness thing. Ironically, though, Donald Trump forgot who he was in front of him, which I thought was hilarious. And I was like, how do you forget? I told my wife, I was like, if I ever forget who Triple H is, that's the minute you have to pull the plug on me. Because if I can't remember who he is, like so central to my life. But anyway, I mean, it's a very like right-coded thing, but it's still, I like it.
I've watched some of the matches now, and the thing is, I've thought about coming back specifically because of the women wrestlers. They're so freaking entertaining, especially
They're so good.
Oh my gosh,
Io Sky is amazing. What she can do in the ring, I went to a pay-per-view and so I forget who she was wrestling, but like she had the championship belt, and like I've never seen somebody fly that high in the sky. It was impressive. Dude, we can move on though before we lose everyone on pro wrestling.
They're like wrestling. What?
Let's get back to real sports. Let's talk about the Savannah Bananas. Okay.
Yeah.
America's sweetheart team right now.
The Savannah Bananas.
This is another thing. I love the Savannah Bananas specifically because it's wrestling meets baseball.
Yes, it is. Yes. It's all entertainment. It's just, it reminds me of that movie with Trey Parker, Matt Stone, Basketball a little bit.
Yes.
Back in the day. And Savannah Bananas. I did not, let me check off, did not think I'd be talking about Savannah Bananas on this one.
I'll bring it up anywhere. I
love it. I love it though. And I love that kind of wacky kind of stuff. And that's what makes, look, wrestling for everyone is not a sport. It's entertainment. It's theater. Right.
My favorite thing to say all the time is that I'm sports entertained. Like, I'll be like, even when it's like not wrestling related, I'll be like, something will happen. I'll be like, I'm sports entertained right now. Like, because which just to me is like, I'm not watching something that's good, but I'm having a good time. So I'm like sports entertained.
That to me, and honestly, circling back, that to me is what Gavin Newsom's doing. Because
I'm sports entertained by Gavin Newsom, but there's no meat on the bones.
No, there's not. It's literally just like, okay, I'll take this because I need something to just, and
what's the line from the American president where he's like, you can lead a camel to you can lead a camel to water, but they can't drink it, or the American people can't tell the difference between water and sand. And it's because of the way politicians treat them. Like, I forget exactly how that line plays out, but something like that.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. And that's, I hated it when he did the Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon thing. And it just looked so desperate. And it was this whole like, oh, we got to talk to the other side. It's like, but that's not the other side, dude. That's the provocateurs and the grifters. And I did a video about that where I took him to task for that. I was just like, no. And it's particularly when he did the trans thing, when he was just like, oh, I agree on this, and for the trans athletes and all that other stuff. And it's just the thing that will be hard for me to come around in the primary with Gavin Newsom is exactly what you pointed out, is that he just feels like an opportunist. I don't know if he's going to get in there and stand up to corporations for the working class. I don't think he's going to, fight those corporate interests, or I could see him like, we need to move on. And it's like, no. Because Julia Roginski said this, and I agree with her, is we absolutely need to hold these MAGA politicians accountable. If we get in there, we got to hold them accountable. We can't let this happen again. A candidate's going to get my vote who says, oh yeah, I'm going to hold Trump and these people accountable to the fullest extent of the law. I'm like, okay, that's going to be one. Are you going to support the working class? Are you going to try to bring healthcare costs down? Are you going to do what the Democratic Party is supposed to stand for? Because part of the problem we have is we're too personality focused at the moment. We don't have a party that says this is what we represent. Now, the hard part for us is the Republicans, they don't really need to do that. They say this is what they represent, but their politicians don't do any of that.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of people in the comments right now that are pointing out that all politicians are opportunists. 100% true. 100%.
Of course.
I don't care if you're a dog catcher or you're president of the United States. Yes. And I think I actually would argue to a certain degree, like most people are opportunists because they'll take the opportunity that's in front of them. And if they're smart, that's the right thing to do. I think you have to be an opportunist and something else. And so when I'm thinking through that, there's going to be, I'm always in a tricky spot because like I also work in this space. Like I will be on a presidential race. I don't know which one, but I'm sure that one of them will eventually convince me to do it. Even though I would desperately rather just shit talk on the internet about it the whole time. But you know, there's sort of like two lanes for me. It's like who's going to hire me is one thing, and I'm not going to go work for somebody I don't believe in. But like, you know, there's other thing. But then there's like who's going to get my vote in the end. And then the truth is like I worked for Harris in 19, but I didn't vote for Harris because she was out. So I voted for Elizabeth Warren in the Illinois primary because I thought Elizabeth Warren was the option that I most believed in that. But
same. That's exactly what I did in 19.
Yeah.
You know,
and,
I didn't vote for
and I love Kamala, and I was grateful that I finally got a chance to vote for her in the general election. Like that was actually super emotional for me as somebody who worked for her for a long time. But you've got to show me a couple of things heading into this next one, some of which Gavin Newsom is doing, some of which he isn't.
Yeah.
But like for me, I want to know that you have a clear understanding of power and how to wield power, and that you are ready to wield that power to save this country from the worst elements of it, which includes this version of the Republican Party, which needs to be smashed. So that means that I want to believe that you're going to go in and not rebuild as a technocrat everything that Donald Trump destroyed, because what we have now is a crisis, but a crisis is an opportunity to rebuild and do something new. I want to make sure you understand that. I want to make sure that, like, if you understand that if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. There's a lot of discussion in the Democratic Party about we should eliminate the filibuster, and we should make DC a state, and we should hack the Supreme Court. And I'm broadly pretty supportive of those things, but only if it's step one of a 500-step thing where we've got a whole plan ready to go of what we're going to do. Because if you only eliminate the filibuster, then 4 years later, we're going to get absolutely smashed by an actually competent autocrat who will get us all killed. Yep. And I believe that firmly. And then we'll have gutted the filibuster and have no way to stop them, no matter how many senators that they have. So there's got to be some thought process of what we're doing after that. And it's got to be that, like, we're making DC a state, and we're making Puerto Rico a state, and we're passing the new Voting Rights Act, and we're this and that and the other thing, and restoring some order. And we have to have a communicator who can go out there and sell that to people and say, these are tough changes that I am making for this reason, and then I'm walking away when it's done. And I do think that that's really necessary. And then I have to believe that at your core, you give a shit about helping people. That you actually care about delivering for people. And I'll be honest with you, this is where Gavin Newsom absolutely fucking loses me. I don't believe that at the end of the day, when the chips are down, Gavin Newsom will stand up to big tech, that Gavin Newsom will stand up to big corporations and will do anything to grow your wages or make your life better. I don't. Because I don't think that when he goes to bed at night, and actually, Olivia Giuliana was on my show a couple weeks ago, and she described it this way. I want somebody who, this is what she said, is twirling brandy at night, thinking about ways to fuck with Republicans. I believe that Gavin Newsom is that candidate. But I want somebody who's up at night drinking a brandy and sitting in front of the fire and twirling their brandy and thinking about how they're going to help people. And if it also fucks with Republicans, that's fine with me. But I don't want it to be I'm fucking with my opposition, because this version of the Republican Party only cares about pissing us off. And then Donald Trump only cares about profiteering for himself and a small handful of people. I don't want the Democratic version of that. I'm not interested in being a part of a Democratic Party that doesn't care about whether or not you have a good paying job, can retire with dignity, can raise a family and buy a house, right? Those are core fundamental things that I never see Gavin Newsom talk about. And that I never see people say is the value prop for Newsom. His value prop is like, he's evil. He's our version of an evil candidate, and like he'll do a lot of stuff that we'll like, but I also think he'll do a lot of stuff that we don't like. And I'm not interested in owning the conservatives. I'm not, even though I do it a lot. I would argue I'm professionally a conservative owner right now, because I keep going on Fox News and doing all these TV interviews. But like, this is not what I want. Like, I would rather like sit down with somebody, drink a beer, and try to like help them solve a problem. That's what I actually want to do.
Yeah, and here's the good news, and this is what I personally think is.
Arlene, I would totally have Newsom on, but I don't think he would do it. But you know what? I said that about Ro Khanna, and because I'm a Ro Khanna critic too. And Ro Khanna came on my show, and he actually won me over by about. I would say Ro Khanna won me over.
No, I think you could. I think you could totally have Newsom on. You know,
I would have him on. I don't think he'll do it.
Here's the thing. I would vote for Newsom even if he's, an evil bastard.
I'll vote for him in the general. If it's him, if it's a shitty Republican. But you know what? If they ran like a moderate Republican that was just like a normal person, I would still vote for Newsom, I think. But a lot of people that are like a little bit more to the center of me are going to have a tough time with that one.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing that is like, if Newsom's like, if he says, look, I'm in my villain era, I just want to go like crush MAGA and Trump, and they're enablers. I'm like, cool. I'm like 50% there with you. the best way to do that, in my opinion, is by supporting unions, helping workers, doing all the things that we say we're going to do and delivering on that. And if you also want to, do Nuremberg style trials, I'm for that too. So if you just do that, right, if we can get both, because I think that will hurt them. You'll hear them squeal.
But you can't get the problem is like the first half. I'm with you on both halves. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah,
but there is a more important half, in my opinion, which is that I desperately want to hold these fuckers accountable. I called them jagoffs the other day, and my guest at the time had a fucking blast about jagoffs. But like, that's what they are. I want them to be held accountable. This is why, like, I don't like.
That's the best way to describe them, though. They're freaking jagoffs.
They're jags. I don't know how else to describe them.
Jags.
Yeah, and I'm sure the origin. I don't even know what that word actually means and what the origin of it is. I'm afraid to look it up because I'm sure
Pittsburgh. It's actually I've worked in Philly.
I'm a huge Steelers fan, so this makes sense to me.
No, Jagoff comes from Pittsburgh. It's basically a combination of idiot and freaking, just an all around, like, just freaking moron that does something.
Why my parents grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania. How do I spell that? I think it's Jagoffs. Jagoffs.
That's Jagoffs. Yeah, and it's just like,
it does have that John. It sounds like John or Jan or whatever you say.
It's John. So like if John, it's like lawn with a J. Okay. And that means thing.
And it basically means nothing, right? You can just use it.
It means it's whatever in place of the noun. It's just like, hey man, why don't you slam it at John? Like
I grew up in Nebraska. We didn't have fucking any cool like turns of
no.
It was like, but people would then say the words of towns wrong, and it would piss me off. They'd be like, this is Beatrix, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's Beatrice. Like, it's like not. It's how it's spelled. Anyway.
No, you're saying the point that I was making. Third thing.
I don't remember what point I was making now.
So the first point was we want an evil guy to hold these people accountable.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it's just that. So there's two halves, right? Of the like, yes, I want these guys to be held accountable, but more importantly, we have to start delivering for Americans. Because if all we do is get in office and we drag Elon Musk in front of Congress to hold him accountable for the shit that he did when he was ahead of Doge, and we should definitely do that. Like, people will be interested in it for like a half a minute, and then they're going to piece back out of there because everyday grocery prices are getting expensive. People can't afford to buy a house. They can't afford to retire with dignity. People aren't having kids because they don't think they can support those kids. We're not creating the conditions for a healthy society where people feel like they can thrive. And in this country, where you have been promised an American dream that says you can start here, you can do everything right, and you can get to here, which is all that people really want at the end of the day, that is dead. And people don't even believe in it. And there are kids who are graduating from college this year who are scared to graduate because the job market is so fucked up. They don't ever believe they'll be able to get to the next step of it. And that leads to a lot of disaffected people that are going to turn to extreme solutions, that are going to turn to the internet for their social connection. That's going to fuck everything up. And why do I have obsession with the kids, Arlene? Is because I care about the next generation. I have a kid, so I have a 6-year-old. So a lot of the way that I approach politics is like, I care about everybody else who's older than me too, but I care the most about making sure that my son grows up to be a good human being and a good man, and he frankly understands what it means to be a man. And I don't think that there are a lot of voices out there telling him what it means to be a man in any bit of quality. And that's why the Andrew Tates of the world are dominating with young men, which pisses me off because they're horrible. And I want to make sure that that he's not going to have to be on my ledger for the rest of my life. I want him to be able to go out and build and create and live the life that he wants. Doesn't mean I don't care about everybody else, because I do. I think the problems that plague my son are also the problems that plague people who are older, that plague people who are my life, because it's the same rot at the core of the American government and system right now, is that the rich continue to get richer. A very small number of people have accumulated so much wealth, and then they basically own the government. And then we have politicians who are so disconnected from the problems in society today that they don't know what it's like to be broke. And so because they don't know what it's like to be broke, they don't know how to help people who are broke. They don't know what it's like to miss a paycheck. They don't know how it's like to be a small business owner. They don't know what it's like. And they can't help you, and they're not interested in helping you. And that's how you get Trump.
Yep. Or these people who don't feel like to your point, they're disaffected, they don't feel like they have any buy-in. There's no path, there's no hope. So I want a strong man that's going to basically, push and get me what I need. And the problem with that mentality is most often those people, they're just grifters, and they take advantage and they screw everybody, right? And that's what we're living through now. Is these people, voted for a strong man. I saw it in East Tennessee. I saw it over and over and over. I saw when I was organizing in 2012, and we were starting to do deep canvassing and deep dives, that kind of stuff. The poverty rate trickle up for Northeast Tennessee, Washington, Sullivan, all those counties, 1% year over year over year over year, starting in about 2000. As it slowly starts trickling up, you see people just giving up because it's gerrymandered all to hell, which is why that's a problem in Texas, because it's not just that it guarantees a win for the opposition, it also depresses voter turnout because you say, well, what's the point? You know, I'm a Democrat. You know, I heard this all the time in East Tennessee. What's the point? I'm a Democrat. My vote's not going to count anyway. It's not going to matter. You know, so I'm just
and
not
who was
going to
the
vote.
last Democrat that showed up to talk to people in East Tennessee? It was Phil Bredesen, who's the last Democrat who won a statewide election there. Showed up and proved that he gave a shit about people. And Democrats don't do that. And this is like, not to keep shitting on Gavin Newsom. And again, I love the strategy right now on social. But is Gavin Newsom showing up to East Tennessee? Is he showing up to a coal town that's struggling right now and going, tell me your problems and let me help you? Like, no, he's not doing that. And like, I think we get boxed into this idea that like, if you voted for Donald Trump, or there's like an area that voted for Donald Trump 70, 80, 90% of the time, right? That, you know, you're bad people or you're racist or you're sexist. There's some of that in there. I'm not going to say that those things don't exist. They absolutely do. But that, even that racism and that resentment is coming from a place of anxiety, which is that the system of government that they live in and their community is not working, usually because manufacturing jobs are gone, agrarian cultures are being destroyed, or because like coal mining towns, there's coal mining towns all across the country that are dried up and they're fucked. Like I told you, my parents grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Like Scranton, Pennsylvania is a really, really, really challenging place for people to live. It's really tough. And they've got a great mayor now, Mayor Cognetti, who's amazing, but there was a corrupt and broken Democratic establishment in Scranton, Pennsylvania that she had to smash as an independent. And it's unbelievable. And that kind of like barren bureaucracy and corruption is rampant in towns all across this country. I mean, it's here in Chicago. I deal with it when I deal with CPS, when I'm on the school council down the street. And that is a form of corruption in and of itself. So we have to get to the place where we stop casting aspersions, because all these people in these small coal towns or these manufacturing towns, the only people who are talking to them are Republicans. The only people who show up and say they're going to do something for them, they're not delivering for sure. But then there's no counterbalance to that, where a strong, well-funded, articulate Democrat can show up with a vision and go, here's how I'm going to help you. So they vote by default for the other side because they don't trust us, and they have a understanding of Democrats from the media that they get. And so part of the reason I go on Fox News and I get, you know, maybe 1 or 2 hits a week is so that maybe every now and again, a small percentage of that audience will see that a Democrat is not some like weird, effete liberal who cares about Sydney Sweeney's jeans. It's a person who gives a shit about whether or not they can put food on the table. And I'm okay to do that. And the difference is it's not that I'm such a great talker. Like there should be like 100 people that are falling over themselves to do those hits, and they're not. So I'm the one doing it. It's like me, Ro Khanna, and Pete Buttigieg are like the only 3 that'll fucking do it, which doesn't make any sense to me. So it drives me crazy.
You're absolutely right, man. It's you know, you have to go meet these people where they're at. And I did this as a red district organizer. You know,
sorry, can I add one thing? Because I just don't want to miss this comment. I like reading the comments here are really good right now. Christine, like, no, they just drank the Kool-Aid. They drank the Kool-Aid because there's nothing else to drink.
That's it.
That's the only glass that's in front of them is Kool-Aid. And we can show up with a nice glass of water and not everybody's going to drink it. But if we show up with a nice glass of water and we give people an opportunity to drink something else, we will get enough of those people back to moderate the country. And so the problem is, like, Democrats have decided that there's only like 8 states that we give a shit about and like 14 battleground districts that we're going to play in. So the only people getting steady communication from Democrats live in like 20 places. And that's messed up. And I'm sorry for interrupting you, Frederick. I just didn't want to lose that.
No, you're good. No, but you're absolutely right, because Democrats, they do not go into these. That's why I love the Howard Dean 50-state strategy, because listen, it comes down to money and it comes down to time and it comes down to candidate building, it's basically Moneyball, right? Where you're looking for the good candidates, everything else. But what you don't have is they aren't talking to these people. When you find out, when you actually do talk to them, yeah, there are going to be some crazy ass MAGA that, you know, it's not worth your time, but everything you see online, that's not how the real world is. No. You'll be surprised when you talk to these people what their concerns are, right? And we had even and here in Douglas County, and this just I can throw out statistics of how things don't back up, right? Douglas County, red district in Colorado, where I live, Castle Rock, right? Is they did the whole, we're going to rebel against mask mandates and we're going to keep the businesses open. They did that crazy shit. Vaccine, the vaccine rates when they came out, we rivaled San Jose and San Francisco. Why? Because we have a lot of former military, we have a lot of tech people here, we have a lot of educated people here, but that vote Republican because there's a libertarian bent here. And we just had a home rule ballot initiative come up where these land developers wanted to pull the county and say, no, we're going to do home rule and all this other stuff because they wanted to put in a 5-star freaking hotel that we didn't need. It was a land grab. But the problem there was ranchers and us who are living here, there's already water consumption problems. We don't need that. 70% of people voted it down.
Where do you live again? A lot of people don't know.
I live in Douglas County, Colorado. So I live in Castle Rock. Unfortunately, Colorado 4, Lauren Boebert's district, unfortunately.
There's always one. There's always one.
I canvassed for Trisha Calabiers, who is local. Great candidate. She's running again. We also have a rear admiral woman, so we don't know who's going to do the primary against Lauren. I certainly hope they win, but I'm in a plus 22 district, unfortunately. So yeah. I'm absolutely.
I know CJ from when I was a kid. So
okay.
I'm also from Douglas County, Nebraska. What's up, CJ?
There you go. Dig it, man. But yeah, dude. I mean, it's part of this is we're not going to get people that are going to agree with us on everything. When I used to organize, I used to tell folks, it's like, listen, they don't need to agree on everything. All you need to do is convince them to push that button. Whatever, right. Like what? Just enough.
They need to feel like you give a shit about them. That you're going to fight for them when the chips are down. And
100%.
Andrew Yang got blasted for this right after the election, but I don't think that this take was wrong. He said if you give people 2 shitty options, they'll pick one, and I still think that is right. And our system of government is ridiculous. We only have 2 options when you vote. You could choose a Democrat or you could choose a Republican. I, for my entire life, have been like, the Democratic Party, as frustrated and as broken as it is still the better option than the Republicans every single time. And looking back on it, the options have literally gotten worse every time. They've literally been, it was McCain, and then it was Romney, and then it was Trump. And I'm just like, had enough of that. And we went from Bush to McCain, which was maybe the only upgrade that we could have had. Because McCain probably would have been a decent president relative to the standards, except for I was militantly anti-Iraq war at the time. So there was no chance of me supporting John McCain for anything. And I'm not anti-war. I'm militantly pro-Ukraine, which is just sort of an interesting how when there's an appropriate use of force, I will get behind that. But when we're doing something stupid, I don't want anything to do with it. But the issue is we got to make people believe that we care about them, that we're standing with them. And if you want to get them past everything, look, most people don't agree with Donald Trump on most things, or on a lot of things, right? Now, there are a lot of people, and they get outsized coverage, who are just behind him no matter what. And there's the Charlie Kirks of the world that are going to tell you that Donald Trump is handsome and fit and the sky is blue and it's raining and all that shit. And it's very, very silly Chairman Mao-esque shit that they do. And we should avoid having any version of that on the Democratic Party side, because I think if we had less of that, we would have had a more clearer conversation about what happened with Biden over the last couple of years, which was necessary, and the party should have done that. But we do have to make sure that we nominate a candidate that people believe is going to fight for them and can push past the perceptions of what it means to be a Democrat. Because right now the party brand is in the shitter, and a candidate like Obama could do that. He got a lot of people to believe in a very bad economy that he was going to fight for them. And there's a lot of things that he did right, and there's a lot of things that he did, I think, that with hindsight I would have done differently. We have an opportunity for that to happen again. Because this president is crashing the economy. The economy was not in great shape towards the end of Biden's term, in my opinion, and now it's in significantly worse shape. And people are more stretched than ever, and they will revert back to voting for us simply because that's the only place for the pendulum to swing. They're not going to reward a party that makes everything more expensive. They're going to punish that party. When we're in power, though, we should not make the mistake of thinking that people like us again, that we're cool again, that we're back. I don't want to hear any of that shit after we win the we win the midterms in 26. I don't want to hear about that. Or if we win the presidential election in 28, I don't want to hear any of that shit. I want to get back to work. because people are struggling. And if we want to win those people over, the best way to do it is to deliver it for them and then annoyingly remind them about it over and over and over again.
Yep. Because that's what a lot of people forget is when your guy or your person or your woman gets elected.
Right.
Got to hold their feet to the fire, man. It's a continuous process. I mean, one of the things that we started a publication called Banner and Backbone. We actually just did a 24-hour live where we broke it up into chunks of 4 hours and switched off. And it was all about pushing for the release of the Epstein files. And part of what we're doing for that is really a re-engagement of civics, is really this understanding of just the power we have as citizens, to where it's not just, hey, we got a president elected, we're good, let's take a break for 4 years. It's like, no, you still got to push. You still got, it's a never ending kind of thing. It's part of your obligation as a citizen. And so if Gavin Newsom were to become the nominee, yeah, I'm gonna vote for him and I'm gonna hold his ass accountable. I'm gonna push. I'm gonna be one of those people to be like, okay, bro, it's like, here's what we need you to do. We need you to go stand up to big tech. We need you to stand up. We need you to fight for the working people. Wow. And then no. This is what we need you to do.
Yep.
And if there's enough of us, we can have that impact. Yeah.
Well, and I think if we can get somewhat creative about how we break some of the cycles here, because what I'm frustrated with is like there's a blueprint for what happens when we win that I think doesn't make sense anymore. And for example, I'm spending, just because I have like my ADHD rattled brain just like jumps from thing to thing. Like I think a lot about like, okay, we win the House back. Let's say we can figure out the Senate in the 4-year period and we get that. And then now we've got a Senate majority and a House majority again. And we've got a Democratic president, whoever that person is. What should we be doing differently day one of that? Not that person's term, but day one that they're the president elect. Right.
Yep.
And I think like one idea that I batted about a lot is I think whoever that person is, the instinct is to stop campaigning, right? That person is going to be very tired. They're going to have been campaigning for months. They're going to have gone through a long, grueling primary. Now they're going to want to rest and they're going to want to start building their cabinet, right? All those things are important. You don't have to be in DC to do those things. I think they should immediately not go to DC and start getting a fancy office. They should keep traveling the country. But the difference is go to the places that you couldn't go. Where like a Democratic candidate is not going to spend any time in Louisiana because there's probably no electoral votes to be won in Louisiana. The moment to go is right after you win. Go to Louisiana and tell people what you're going to do. And keep listening and keep campaigning. Like the campaigning doesn't stop when the election is over. There's this idea that we're campaigning for this time, then we're governing, then we're campaigning again. The one thing that Donald Trump generally understands is he's campaigning 24/7, and he will go to places. Now the challenge is like he can go to New York, make it look like a campaign event, but it's really a fundraiser, and then talk about how he's campaigning. And we can kind of do that in Texas. Like Kamala did that in Texas a few times. She was like, I'm in Texas today, and she was really just fundraising, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I want it to be that like we get fireside chats is a good idea. We come up with a modern version of a fireside chat. We push it out to people. But also, I would have that president on the road much more. And that's why having somebody who has the vitality to be able to do that and give that speech and go talk to local press is going to be super important, because I would be offering interviews in South Dakota and Montana and just states where they haven't heard from a Democrat in a while and get past this bullshit right-wing ecosystem and be out there all the time. Because in this media environment, people's attention spans are so short because our algorithms are pushing content in and out, in and out, in and out. And that's why you can kind of change people's perceptions really quickly, but you got to stay on top of it. So there's sort of we're getting the evil version of that with Trump, but there is a non-evil version of what Trump is doing, and there's a lot to learn. And I worry that Democrats learned the wrong lesson from Donald Trump, which is to become a party of grievance and to become a party that's very happy with who they're pissing off, or even a party that thinks the sensationalist tactics that Newsom is doing by emulating Trump are something that wins over the general population, which it won't. It's just fun. It's fun. It's fun memes for us. Like, it's fun. I like it. But it's not going to move us past this moment. It's just good for engagement bait right now. Again, nothing wrong with it. But I think there's stuff to learn, and I'm spending a lot of time trying to get that out of my brain so I can eventually put it in front of somebody who can make it happen.
But you know what? I think the good news to this, like where the opportunity is, it's not just for our political leaders, but it's also for folks like us, where there's this new media ecosystem coming out. There's this new kind of like, you, me, like all kinds of creators, Joe Walsh. There's a realignment of that where we can push these things out and we can say, hey, this is what we want from our party, right? This is what people are saying to us. This is where we want to be. This is where I think we need to be. And so you saw this with AM radio, with for on the bad side with Rush Limbaugh, those kind of folks. You see it with Charlie Kirk, but we can kind of come over here and do it on our side. And I think that's how we kind of get towards the kind of Democratic Party that's responsible to the people. And I mean, I've not thought about that, what you just said, but that's a damn good point, because even how we look at the vice president and the president is different now. Whereas the vice president, Kamala did a lot of diplomatic work, right? But if you have a president has more vitality and they travel around and they go to those districts where they say, hey, we just passed this infrastructure act. This is what it's going to do for you. Or, hey, I'm trying to pass this act. I want you to know, like, your representative said they don't want to do this, right? And this is what it's going to do for you. We often, as Democrats, don't do that enough. They got to get out of D.C.
Yeah.
They got to get out of
DC. And I'm going to go fly to Lauren Boebert's district, and I'm going to go tell people why she's not supporting my plan to do X, Y, and Z. Like, right. I'm trying to solve this issue this way. You've been told this, and it's horseshit, and here's what it actually is. And Lauren Boebert's not doing it. So what I want you to do is pick up the phone and call Lauren Boebert. And you host that event in her district, across from her office, wherever you want to go, and get beyond. Make yourself be, and this is why I think it's important that we nominate someone who is, because you can play the role, but then you can have the role. But you be the man of the people or the person of the people. I don't want to make it gendered. Like, I think a woman could do that just as well.
Sure.
Probably better, frankly, than men. But it is go be of the people and for the people. And to quote the old boss, Kamala Harris would say for the people all the time. But like, we can do that. And again, I think that is very Trumpian in its base tactic. But it's he can see the world in a way that is useful, and then you can grab that and run with it. And I talk about this problem, it's distance to problem. And if you're so far away from the problem, you can't solve it. And the closer you get to people, the closer you get to having the problem be in your actual life. Barack Obama was a better president because he came from nothing. He came from nothing. And because of that, he cared a lot more than the average person does. Trump is a terrible president because he has never had to fucking actually work a day in his life. He was born with a golden spoon up his ass. He acts like he was born on third base, and then he hit a triple, and he did it. And it's mind-boggling to me. And his kids are even worse.
Yes, his kids are awful. We've hit the
we've hit the hour mark. I think I turned into a pumpkin.
No, yeah. So I know you're short on time. Dude, thank you so much for showing up here.
This was a great conversation, Frederick. It was awesome.
Dude, I love it. We anytime you want to come, I will make time, bro.
Happy
and
to.
If you ever need me, and tell Joe I said hi. Joe actually, fun fact, Joe was the first person I got invited on his show, The Social Contract with Joe Walsh. That was the first live I did with somebody else.
That's awesome. That's
on Substack.
Joe and I have a weekly show now every Friday at I think it's noon Central, 1:00 Eastern, and it's called Welcome to the Party, Pal, where I check in with him once a week about what it's like to be a Democrat. So, and for those,
do you ever need someone to crash in there and like take it to Joe, or just like have a convo? I'm down. I love Joe.
We'd be happy to have you. People should go watch last week's episode because I got outwoked by Joe Walsh and I was furious. I was so pissed. I was like, how did I get outwoked by a Republican congressman? So fucked up.
I love it. Mr. Tea Party himself, right?
I know. He's getting better. And 2 weeks ago, we had like a really good chat about Israel and Palestine, and he's much more. I'm pro-Israel generally, but like he's like gone, and we got. Many people have been telling him that he's wrong, and then we talked about like the genocide and the starvation happening in Gaza right now, and it was just it's good, healthy, friendly chat, and we need more of it. So
100%, Mike. Yeah. Thanks again, man. I appreciate it. Anytime you want to come back, I'm down.
Yeah, you're the man, Frederick. I appreciate this. To the 1,300 of you who are here, thank you. You guys are awesome. Love you.
Thanks, everybody. You all have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.